What's going on, everyone? So, Jaxson Hayes is going to be out for some time. He's at least 2-3 weeks away from being reevaluated, and then he's got to ramp up. Probably looking at like 4, maybe 5 weeks before the Lakers actually get him back on the basketball court, which is not good because the Lakers are very limited at the center spot, very limited at the center position. It's not like they have this plethora of centers, right? I mean, they need a center already, even with Jaxson Hayes. Now you take out Jaxson Hayes, and it's like, what are the options for the Lakers? Well, options right off the bat would be, Christian Koloko kind of getting more opportunity to play in that role, which, he went from, being a guy that was out a year and a half to, hey, now you're playing half the season, right? If not more, right? We might actually end up having to bring him on the roster at some point at the rate we're going. So, Koloko, which is good, right? It's good just conditioning for him. Good opportunity for him. He was a project before he ever even, before the year and a half hiatus you had in that. And, right, he needs to kind of get the reps in. So I do think for him and like the long term for him as a Laker, I do think is beneficial, right? A guy that can come in, block shots, high energy, right? Gives you some of the things that Jaxson Hayes gives you, just better shot blocking. And I do think the more that he plays, the more that he gets comfortable, the more that he kind of progresses, the more likely he just improves just naturally, right? A lot of people talk about, Scottie Pippen Jr. and Jay Huff, right? Well, how come they were? Well, they got the opportunity, right? Like, they weren't great on the Lakers, right? But they went to a team like Memphis, who they were tanking. They were trying to lose games, so they were able to allow those two to just play, 35 minutes a game, and they had great games. They had terrible games, right? It goes into development. Something I've talked about, right? Like, why you got to stick with Max Christie? Why you got to play with some of these guys, right? Like, you want to properly develop guys. You can only have them in the G League. You can only have them, in scrimmages and practices, right? So long. Eventually, they need to see the actual basketball court and just get those reps and get those opportunities and play through their ups and downs, play through their hiccups and hurdles, and see what they can produce. Can they come out on the other side, right? And it's also finding that fine line and balance of like, okay, this guy just, we've given him enough, he doesn't have it, or like, hey, no, this guy's really starting to break through. Again, look at a Jay Huff or a Scottie Pippen Jr., right? So I do think that this benefits Christian Koloko. Doesn't really benefit the Lakers. I would also like to get a couple looks at a Armel Traore, right? Now, obviously, he's not like a center. Right? He's not like 7 feet. He's like 6'9", right? 6'8", 6'9". But he's got good size, good athleticism. He's got like a 7'3" wingspan. He's a guy that I think could come in and actually play a role, play an opportunity. Right? He's a guy that can defend essentially 1 through 5 on top of rebounding. I mean, he had a 22 rebound game in the G League. I'm not expecting him to do that here, but can we kind of get him some reps and maybe get him some opportunity and kind of see and gauge, is this a guy that, maybe could make an impact, especially if the Lakers pull off a trade, and that's what we're going to dive into here in a moment. But if the Lakers pull off a trade at some point, I would like to see some of these guys. I've talked about it with Quincy Olivari, right? Talked about it with Armel Traore, more so on Ask the Lakers show, but still, I've talked about these guys and how, like, I'd rather see now what these guys are capable of. I'd rather see now, can these guys come in and have a real impact, or are these guys just, another year or two away from being ready, right? Because if the Lakers do trades, by the time everything's said and done, right, chances are they're probably going to need to fill out a roster spot or maybe even 2. So, okay, well, if you get a center, like let's say you get let's say you get like Dorian Finney-Smith. Well, let's say Cam Johnson, right? Because 2-for-1 swap. Because if you get Dorian Finney-Smith, then yeah, you'd probably be fine because you can get to like 14 guys. But let's say you end up having to do like a 6-for-4 swap, and it's like Cam Johnson, Day'Ron Sharpe, and Dennis Schroeder, right? Just to use names. Say you pull off that type of trade, and you got to send out 6 guys or whatever to go get those 3, or maybe get a Dorian Finney-Smith is like 6'4". It's like, okay, we need to fill in 2 spots. Well, who are you filling those spots in with, right? Got to keep in mind they are a second apron or a first apron team. Lakers are first apron team. Correction. First apron team. Want to make that clear. So there's restrictions for even the buyout market, right? And those restrictions, like if I think it's 20 million, like if somebody's made 20 million or more, it might be 18 million, but there's restrictions on like if somebody makes a certain amount of money and they get bought out. Lonzo is a guy that I keep seeing people wanting the Lakers to acquire. And there have been talks of like, maybe Lonzo will get bought out by Chicago, right? They're trying to trade him. If they are unable to pull off a trade for him, do they end up buying him out? Lakers can't even sign him off of a buyout. Right, because he makes too much money, right? So, like, the Lakers are limited in that market. Chances are you're probably going to have to get into either free agents, like, say you need a guard. You could bring in, like, a Jordan Goodwin or a Markelle Fultz, right? Like, Dennis Smith Jr., right? Like, you have guys that you may be able to bring in, but you also may need to go into your two-way guys, right? If you need a center, it's like, okay, well, let's bring in Christian Koloko, right? Okay, well, we could use a forward. Okay, Armel Traore. I'd like to see if those guys are capable of playing, right? Because then, like, what if Armel Traore comes in? Like, no one's expecting him to be an offensive weapon, right? But, like, what if he goes and he gives you, just through the hustle and is just ups his defense, right? Because he's 6'8", 6'9", with like a 7'2", 7'3" wingspan and can just essentially defend multiple positions. He gives you that energy. He gives you that effort. He's shown the ability to stretch the floor. He's not there yet, but he has shown the ability. Like, even in the G League, I think he's like 34% from three-point range, which isn't great by any stretch, particularly the G League, but it shows that he has that potential, right? Like, what does he look like? Is he a guy that's like, okay, he could come in and be our 15th guy, right? Like, he can come in and in a pinch kind of fill in, or our 14th guy. Or it's like, nah, he's not ready. We need to look at, bringing in some of these other guys, right? We need to look to the free agent market and see if we can find somebody. Maybe we need to bring in a Dwight or something just because he has experience and, he's a guy that could just be our 14th guy, right? Like, I want to see the Lakers give these guys some opportunities to really kind of gauge and see, like, okay, are these players that can make an impact now, right? And no one's expecting, again, Armel Traore, I'm not expecting him to come in and average a double-double and, be Jared Vanderbilt defensively or anything like that. I'm talking about, like, in spot minutes, in a pinch, right? Can he come in and give you, a 10 solid minutes of effort, energy, right? Because, we've seen him on the court, but in, like, limited garbage time minutes, right? Or, like, 2 minutes here and there just to, like, give somebody rest, right? Rather than like a real, like, hey, we're going to give you a shot tonight. Let's see what you can do, right? Like a great example is like the Warriors, right? You look at the Warriors, they go 12, 13, 14, 15 deep, right? Because Steve Kerr believes in playing everybody. He's even talked about it. Like, how could I expect guys to stay ready and be ready when they never see the basketball court? And then it's like a guy's out for an extended period. It's like, okay, well, it's your turn. And he's just like, I haven't played all year. And then you expect him not to be good. I'm not saying you have to go to the extremes, right? But it's the same idea of like, hey, let's get some guys some reps. Let's get some guys some opportunities, especially if the guys you're currently playing aren't great. Like, one of my arguments for Quincy is like, Gabe Vincent has been the worst player in basketball. Like, it's not an opinion. That's like a literal fact. Like, the guy's been atrocious. How much worse can Quincy be? Right? And if he is, you don't like, okay, back to the G League. It's not a big deal. Like, nothing changes. But if he is, and he is able to come in, and he is able to actually provide a role and play a spot, well, then good. Now you can look to move Gabe Vincent, and you might have your guard position solved, so you can go focus on other things and not have to go get a guy or something, right? Like, how do you know unless you try these guys? The trade front is probably the best option, right? Without a doubt, the trade market is the best option. However, teams aren't rushing to the door to trade centers to Lakers. And half of the guys aren't even available till December 15th. So Lakers are going to be bare minimum 2 weeks without one of those guys, right? And then even then, right, like, you're coming from a place of desperation, right? You're coming from a place of like, we really need a center. So guess what teams are going? Hey, like there was reports, Nikola Vucevic, right? 2 seconds. Is he really? Well, first off, I don't think he's available till the 50. But like, let's say right now Chicago's like, yeah, let's say he is available. Chicago right now is like, hey, yeah, 2 seconds is what we want. If the Lakers call right now, Chicago's like, how about a protected first or a pick swap or something like that, right? Unprotected pick swap, right? Like, why? Because again, the Lakers are in a place of we need a center, not we would like to have this guy. Like, that's the difference. And yes, like, you could argue Lakers are kind of in that position regardless, but not really. Like, they need, like, really a backup center, right? But it's like, hey, we could go get all these other pieces, and then, worst case, we have Jaxson Hayes, right? Like, at least you can play the role. I still think, regardless, Lakers need a center, but you can kind of play, like, hey, like, look, Jaxson Hayes has been fine for us. We would love Day'Ron Sharp, but, hey, we're fine just sticking with Hayes if we have to, right? Or Koloko. We could, worst case, we could just include Hayes into one of these trades and just bring in Koloko. He's been great for us, right? Like, it's the hey, we're not desperate type scenario where right now it's like, well, you don't have Anthony Davis is your only center for 5 weeks, right? Like, it's like, well, how the tides have turned, how the tables have turned, right? So anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? What do you think is the best course of action? Obviously, I think the trade market is the best course of action, but until you can kind of work that out and figure that out, in the meantime, I would prefer the Lakers kind of just like, find that, try to see if they can find that gem in Koloko, keep giving him some reps, right? Bring in Armel Traore, kind of see what he can do. Obviously, Armel Traore doesn't really solve the center position. He's more of a power forward. If he really develops a shot, then maybe even a small forward, but kind of that like Aaron Gordon type role, right? Like I could see him slotted in that type of role, but like he needs reps to get there. But anyway, again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it either way, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.